Here come the boys. Y'all ready to go swimming, baby? Come on. Give it up. Get out of that water. I tried telling y'all, it's swim lessons, baby.
Mr. Barry Haggin, thank you for coming on today. Appreciate you.
My pleasure there, big guy.
How you doing?
Wonderful.
Hey, heading south on Sunday.
Heading south on Sunday.
That'll be good.
Told my neighbor, he keeps sending me pictures of him in his lounge chair. And I told him, I said, don't worry, I'm coming on Sunday. It'll be 60 and raining. So when I get
Exactly. Well, we were texting a little bit yesterday, but North Dakota State Bison just signed Andy Stefanowicz, son of Rob Stefanowicz, who you coach, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, and Rob Stefanowicz would you say, this is kind of a loaded question, but he was probably, if not the best basketball player to ever come out of Divide County?
Oh, yeah, he was one of the best for sure.
Yeah.
Mr. Basketball, so that,
Yep.
tells it a little bit what he is right there, and also just a tremendous young man.
Yeah.
Andy's a lot like, I say Andy's a lot like his mom. He's got a lot of Rob's talent. He's very smooth. But his mom, Jody, she was she's in the North Dakota State Hall of Fame. She was a hell of a basketball player, but she was a hard-nosed little guard, and that's Andy. He's a hard-nosed, just a
guard,
excellent guard. So I think he's really gonna be. I'm really looking forward to watching him play at NDSU. I think it'll be great.
It's pretty cool when you get to go play, kind of follow your dad's footsteps, because Rob played at North Dakota State, and now Andy's going to go play there, which is a pretty unique situation.
Yeah, they're very excited. In fact, I just text Rob, and Rob texted me just this morning here, and sent me some pictures of the ceremony and stuff.
Really?
So yeah, pretty excited family, which they should be. It should be.
What kind of player was Rob Stefanowicz?
Well, he's very smooth, excellent shooter. A great team player. Rob was a very talented kid. But we had some good kids around him too. And he never ever stood out where he was going to score 30 points a game or something like that. Had the possibility to do it.
Yeah.
But he was just one of those all-around, just smooth, great athletes,
When you're going into a season like he had, when he gets an award like Mr. Basketball, which is the best player out of the state, what was that like? Is that something that you as a coach talked to him like, hey, we know this is going to be a big year, but keep your eyes on the prize. It's the team game. What were some things that you said to Rob before the season?
Oh, yeah, you had to talk about those things a lot. And plus there was also college scouts,
Right.
coming to ball games and looking at things, and so you had to keep him focused on what was going on. And Rob was very good about it, We tried to keep it, if we knew coaches were coming around and stuff, we tried to keep it away that, that he didn't know about it and that type of thing, But, but then most of the things we did with most of the kids, we started out the year, everybody has goals. We set up with their goals, what they wanted them to be, what the role players were going to be, and so we talked a lot about that at the beginning of the year, and just and just kind of go from there. So,
well, one question, Barry, and I've known you my whole life, but one question I really want to know, and I know a few people that are my age want to know, is when exactly did you get into the coaching game?
When I got into it,
yeah.
Well, actually, I got into it about, I started really wanting to be a coach when I was in high school. Just
Really?
like a lot of kids do and stuff,
Yeah.
But I had a lot of stars lined up for me as I went through my life. I tell you what, I went to college and I flunked out. I was one of the kids, that got to college and. Well, all this stuff is really going on.
I had a good time. Yeah.
But it was one of the best things that ever happened to me. I went home, and I ended up working for a rancher.
Really?
At down in Alamo. Back in those days. Well, this is back in the late '60s, and he had about 250 head of cattle. Well, you didn't hear about that.
Right.
Anyone having that many head of cattle, most people had 25 head, and so he was a big rancher, and so that's what I ended up doing is hauling hay and
really
pitching shit, and doing that, driving over frozen cow patties in the wintertime, throwing out hay,
Yeah.
And of course, everything was square bales back in those days, you know. But like I said, as things lined up, it just happened to be that I suppose it would have been about 70, 71, something like that. It must have been 70, that they didn't have a football coach in Alamo.
In Divide County? Oh,
In
in Alamo.
yeah.
Okay.
So they asked me if I would want to coach football.
Really?
Well, I was really, because I only played 1 year of football because they started it when I was my senior year. So I'm going, well, I know. Thought, well, what the heck? I'll try it because I've thought about coaching, And it went well. I really enjoyed it. And we actually won a couple games, So,
Yeah.
Well, then when basketball came around, they asked me if I would work with the basketball program. So,
Boys or girls?
It was boys.
Okay.
Yeah. And I said, yeah, I might as well. And the guy I was working for said, yeah, go ahead. We'll give you the time off. We'll do stuff, So it worked out good. And it just happened to be when we got to the district tournament, well, we made it to the championship game. And one of the officials was a guy named Ken Becker. He was a head football coach at Minot State.
Really? I was going to say, isn't the field
right?
named?
Yeah.
Becker Field.
And he comes. We were just visiting. And he talks. Well, what school did you go to? And I says, well, I haven't went to college yet. He said, you're kidding me. He said. So he said, you get your butt to Minot State right now. He said, and you get a hold of me.
Really?
So that fall, I registered and I went to see him. And him and I'll never forget Vince Elgie, who was the head of the department of the Phi Ed department down there. Those two just, took me under their wings and, kind of got things going.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, then, like I said, the stars were aligned, I tell you what.
Yeah.
Because when we played Ray in the championship game that year, the head coach was a guy by the name of Laverne Tweeton.
Okay.
Now, Laverne Tweeton ended up getting the job at Minot Ryan.
Oh, wow.
That fall.
Okay.
So when he got to Minot Ryan, and he knew that found out I was going to school at Minot, he got a hold of me and said, I want you to come and help with my basketball program. Whew. So I got to be the freshman coach at Minot Ryan.
Wow. That is a good break.
So I got to coach 4 years of Class A basketball watching, and I got to coach as I went to school, and then, like I said, as I was finishing my school, I was all set up. I was going to go student teach down at Max.
Okay.
And it wasn't very long. It was only a couple of weeks before I was supposed to go student teach. And Vince Elgie, the head of the department, come and talk to me. He says, hey, there's a coaching opening at Divide County. They're looking for a coach.
Wow.
Freshman coach. And they said, what if you went and student taught at Divide County and you could get some coaching too?
Yeah.
Well, no brainer.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not coming to Max, So I came here. So that was in 74, winter of 74. And
what coaching vacancy was open?
It was a freshman. I was freshman boys.
Freshman boys.
Yeah.
That's what you started off
right.
with.
Yeah. Doug Graupe was the head coach.
Really?
Yeah.
No
and so, learned a lot from Doug.
Yeah.
He let me do just about anything I wanted to and let me be with the varsity practices and let me do everything I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then come an opening that spring then, there came an opening for Phi Ed and they called me and said, do you want this? And I went, yeah, so I got the job as the Phi Ed and then I got the head girls basketball at that time. So like I said, everything kind of just aligned up to be. And of course, I thought, okay, I'm going to be at Divide County for 2-3 years, we'll see how things go. Oh, yeah, 2-3 years, Yeah.
And now
40 years later.
That's awesome. So then you become the girls' head coach. What was that first year being a head coach like? Well,
it was great. I had done enough coaching. Mm-hmm. So I really felt I was ready for it anyway. I was really looking forward to be a head coach. And, and you don't know exactly if, you got everything aligned, but I was pretty confident about what I could do and how things were going. And then, of course, I got lucky, too, that I just had a bunch of tremendous athletes to start off my coaching career with also.
Oh, you had a good team?
So, yeah,
really?
And so we ended up taking second in the region that year.
Oh, wow. So maybe it's a region championship.
Right, yeah.
Wow.
So, like I said, we had some tremendous girls. And, of course, we had most of those girls coming back. Mm-hmm. So in 77, the next year, 76, 77 year, well, we won the state championship. We went undefeated that year.
Well, how many years were you into it?
That was my second year.
Second year you won a state championship.
Right, yeah.
Who was on that team that I would know?
Oh, okay. Well, Penny Andrist.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Susie K. Bakewell.
Okay.
A lot of the, Rhonda Olin, she was here,
Wow.
she started for us.
So your second year head coach, you win state.
Yeah.
What's that feeling like?
Well, I said, I have a lot of visions of it, when the buzzer went off,
Yeah.
Remember Susie K. falled out. And I remember when the buzzer went off and I turned around and here Susie K. just attacked me. I remember her coming off the bench. And then the other thing that is so vivid of me is I looked up in the stands and here comes Bud Molander about 3 steps at a time coming running down the steps and hitting me, so just a couple of really, great memories that really stick at me,
That's a great memory. Yeah, Bud Molander, he's an all-time legend.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so now how long did you coach girls before you stepped into the boys role?
Well, I coached girls, was it 2 years?
Mm-hmm.
And then I took over the boys. I did both.
Okay. You coached both?
Right. We, because girls was in the fall.
Oh,
so
I forgot that.
We did girls in the fall and we did boys in the winter. So Bud Molander and I co-coached.
Oh,
for a year.
Okay.
And then I took over from there. And then so I did the boys and girls until they did the.
Do you think they should go back to that?
Oh, I would love to see that.
I think so too. Wouldn't that be better?
Yeah, I mean, I know that the deal, and I said, I just really think that, I think especially in the Class B side of the girls' basketball, I think it really hurt them.
Yeah.
I think it really, having that, being at the same time with the boys, I just see the quality of basketball has really went down from back at that time. I think it really hurt it. So I really would like to see that. I know the big qualm about with the volleyball part, but it was that, it wasn't during their recruiting season. They weren't getting. The college couldn't recruit during that. That was kind of their dead time or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I guess my philosophy always is, if you're good enough, they'll find you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But
exactly.
That's the dinosaur talking. So.
Well, okay. Now the part of your journey that excites me the most is definitely not against the girls, but the boys side. I guess I know a lot more, like guys like Kevin Tomte, like we talked about Stefanowicz. Tell me about when you first started coaching boys basketball here at Divide County. Okay,
well, like I said, I started out with freshman boys to go, and then when I took off with the boys with Bud, and then we stayed with the boys, all the way through, and I kind of ended up going back and forth with the girls and the boys through those years, but we had just some, we had some tremendous boys basketball teams also, and so And I just tell people, that, what'd you do? What's the transition from girls to boys? Well, there was none. Right. Because I coached the same way as the girls that I did the boys. I wasn't, I did the same things. There was nothing different, So the transition, there was no transition. I just went into the same things. And in fact, a lot of things, when I was doing both, I had a lot of new things. I did it during girls basketball, found out what worked, and got into boys basketball. I already knew what was going to work and what wasn't going to work of the new stuff that I was looking at, So that was really a good plus too. But on the boys side, we really had, I always say, we had a lot of success. And we came so close so many times to it, I always think about, there always could have been, but you always hate playing the if game. But that's just a sport. That's just a story of sports. I just, you're going to hit sometimes, and then sometimes you're just not going to hit.
Right. One of my favorite stories that you talked about was when I was coaching, you came in and talked to the kids, and you talked about I think it was the region championship game against Ray. When they had, what sign did they have or something that you were telling me about? I can't remember that part of the story. They had a sign that said "Not Tonight, Divide" or something.
Well, no, that was they had these little. I think they were about 4th or 5th graders, if I remember right. And they come by and they kept walking by our bench, and they had a big sign that said, "What's a maroon?"
Yeah,
all the time. What's a maroon?
Yeah.
And they did it. Well, actually, they did it the night before we even played them.
Really?
And so when it came championship night, and we played them in the championship game. Well, here come these little kids. They had this sign again that said, "What's a maroon?" And I just thought it was so classy. All of a sudden, up on our stand became this one of those ones, like a rip-up sign that covered our whole crowd, that said, and they come by with "What's a maroon?" And I come around, opened up, and that said, "Your worst nightmare." So I went, "Oh, that was class."
That's awesome. And then the story that you talk about was during that championship game. I believe it was Kevin Tomte when you drew up a play and the play kind of fell apart, and then there was a guy that was trailing that ended up hit the person you didn't want to take the shot. Took the shot and made it. Take it over from there, Barry. Tell us that.
Well, like I said, of course, I think everything was set up for Rob.
Yeah,
that's what we
Rob's
were trying
funnels,
to go
yep.
to, and of course it didn't go that direction. And then you have to give credit to a kid like Kevin Tomte, and Kevin was just an excellent point guard.
Yeah.
And he saw things right away, and he knew that when we came off the screen and we come there, it's one of those, hey, you set the screen and pop, and it just happened to be that Darwin Lindsay was the pop guy. And Kevin saw it, threw it over to Darwin. Well, and Darwin was an excellent shooter,
right?
And it just happened to be, that it all worked out. It wasn't what we called, but
it worked out.
Yeah,
That's another thing. Like you're talking about sports, sometimes you win, but sometimes shit like that happens, and it's for the best.
Well, yeah, like I said, but it takes a kid. It takes kids like those that they played so much together.
Yeah,
they saw the floor so well. It was just one of those teams that, there was, like I said, every kid we put on the floor had their roles, knew what was going on. And I said, that was just an excellent play by Kevin to realize, hey, that thing's not coming, and go the other direction with it. So,
was that one of your favorite teams?
Oh, gosh, yes. Well, It has to be, yeah, very close team. Mm-hmm. If you talk to Kevin, those boys are still as close as if they were, together right now in high school. Yeah. And same with me, I'm in touch with them all the time, So, So one of the things, one of the best, but also one of the closest of the kids, that I coached, So.
Was that one of those seasons where when it's happening and you've got a tight-knit group, you've got a good, talented group, you've got guys like Kevin Tomte, Rob Stefanowicz, you just kind of pinch yourself halfway through the season, you got to say, hey, I got to live the moment. This is going to be a special year. Well,
we knew it was going to be a special year because we had took 7th in the state the year before, and we had all these kids back. Mm-hmm. And it was... So we knew it was one of those years that, okay, we really have to, the only way that this is going to be a successful season is to go beyond what we did last year. I mean, That was the only thing that was going to be a successful season. And so, did the throat get a little tight a few times? Yeah, Yeah. And that's the hardest part about coaching those situations because, kids get tight. Like I always tell people, you want to get in the coaching game. Well, you better realize that if you're going to be a coach, everything you do relies on how a 16-year-old kid is going to react under pressure, and that's the hardest part of coaching, and making sure, hey, that pressure doesn't get to them too hard, and get them through the humps when we have to have the humps, So
at another cool part of your journey was that ceremony they had for you, where every person that you coached came back to the Moose Lodge, and we had kind of that ceremony for you, Hall of Fame, if you will, type thing. And one of the stories that I was talking to a few of the guys, I can't remember if it was your assistant coach or Kevin Tomte or one of them, but they were talking about when Plentywood came to Crosby to play. And another one, Bites the Dust, started playing. And Kevin said when we ran out, it was like wall to wall with people, just hearing that dung, dung, dung. And he said it was just one of his most memorable things. Can you talk a little bit about kind of what it was like to play in front of those types of crowds? Because obviously Class B now, it's not as many people go to basketball games, but when you fill the gym, Divide County has a huge gym. So when it's full like that and you walk out, that's got to be a special type of feeling too.
Yeah, and we had a lot of ball games like that, because one thing is, when we were at the top and we were playing that well, other teams wanted to play, so we got a chance to bring some excellent basketball teams in here, And I think the game he was talking about, was probably when we played Kenmare.
Yeah, that's what it was. Sorry.
Because Kenmare was we were the number 1 team in the state, and Kenmare was number 2.
Yep.
And they had Pete Erickson and,
Well, they had
Harris,
Zimmer
and Harris. And,
yep.
They had just an excellent basketball team. And, of course, it was the number 1 team against number 1, 2. And I remember we lined up. We had to put chairs along the end line.
Wow.
And because there was no place for the seating, and we had, and I remember there was more coaches at that ball game than I'd seen from,
Yeah.
And like I said, there were coaches from all over the state that came to watch it and everything, and fans from all over the state. Yeah, and it was, and of course we got beat,
Yeah. Yeah.
But and so it ended up, all the time is that They ended up being the number 1 team in the state, and we ended up being the number 2 team in the state as the years went along, And when we both got the state tournament, it's a lot different than it is now. Now they rank the teams as you get to the state tournament. Well, then it was just they had a rotation thing of when you played, and so it ended up our first game happened to be Kenmare.
Really?
Of the state tournament.
How did it go?
So it was number 1 against number 2, the first game of the state tournament. Yeah, and and of course they beat us. We had a sign. I remember that time. You beat us at home, but not at the Dome. And eventually we ended up winning that ball game, and and I was, like I said, we always talk about Scott Molander.
Yep.
Or not Scott, but I mean Shane Molander.
Shane.
He got a chance to play against 3 Mr. Basketball candidates.
Really?
Because Pete Erickson was a basketball candidate, and then we played. I'm just went blank now. But he played a Gearing kid. He was an excellent basketball player, and he was a Mr. Basketball candidate. And then championship game, we played Galseth, who won the Mr. Basketball that year. And so we just about got all 3. We didn't get Galseth, but because we were kind of pushing for Shane and say, okay, you get to play against all 3. And
so you lost in the state championship.
Yeah, we lost the state championship. We won't talk about that game.
Well, you've seen both sides. I mean, obviously you win the state championship, like you said, your second year as a head coach, then you lose that one. I mean, it's a little different speech there, but I mean, I hate to bring you back, but what do you say to a group like that was so tightly knit group, and how's the locker room speech afterwards? Well,
the biggest thing you come in the locker room there is you just thank everybody and you praise them for what they did. You fell short, and and like I said, we could have played the if game all we wanted to, because there was a lot of situations, like we say, hey, that should have never happened, but and we could play the if game, and I still think we were probably a better team than them, and just that night we just didn't come through. Excuse me. We didn't get blown out. I think we lost by 3. So I mean, it wasn't it was just one of those situations. Yeah, we could have won, but we didn't, and we move on and we go from there. So because you can't ask for anything better. Hey, you got to the championship game. Didn't make it, but that's
close.
That's you don't take that every time.
Yeah, 100%. One of my favorite things, and a question that I ask just about every coach that I get a chance to chat with, is when you're starting to build a program, what's something that you make sure you do as a coach?
Well, I got one of the best things that ever happened to me is I ended up having some excellent assistant coaches, and I got it all the way down from the junior high all the way on up. That we made sure we really had some good people down below, and they followed the same things that we were trying to do. And so the program kind of just went through the progression. By the time they get into the junior high, got into the freshman level or whatever, they were built into the program. Yeah. And that's where I was so lucky, is I had some people that assisted me that were behind the program 999% all the time, and that's where you really got to have your program. It isn't just come out and hope that, okay, this year you're going to have the kids, because the kids down below have got to just keep coming and keep coming. And you always hope, and we got, you talk about kids, and stuff, doggone well, when, especially, I remember, one of the first years I remember was, when the girls' state championship wasn't on TV, but in '82 and the boys, that was on TV.
Oh, really?
So that was one of the first times it was, all over the state. So, and I remember we came back from that tournament. We won the state tournament, and I was teaching elementary phi ed too.
Oh, okay.
I come back, boy, those kids, they were just going, wow, we saw you on TV, but that was the part of the thing, is that all these kids saw this, and they could go through, and as you go through and you rate, okay, I want to be this guy, I want to be this kid, and it just, the program just kind of kept going from there. And, so that's really the highlight of what, you're trying to do as a coach. So
yeah, it's a big thing to have good junior high coaches, and especially to get them started when they're young.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, Jake Duvetter, and, Jake started out at the junior high level with me, and just did. In fact, he was the one, he started out with Kevin Tompe and all these kids, and
oh, really?
I kind of brought these kids right along, and I just brought Kevin right along with them, Jake right along with him, because he had worked with them. We just went along, and from there on, Jake and I just stayed together, And the same thing with Robin Haug, back in the days.
I like that guy. I like Jake a lot too. But Robin, he's always just a happy-go-lucky guy.
Oh yeah, and he was just the exact opposite of me. I was Mr. Wild Man, and he was Mr. Calm, and usually had a one-liner constantly all the time, to kind of keep everybody loose, So
yeah.
And then like I said, and just an excellent basketball coach himself, too. So he went on and. We coached at Wilson High School and had a tremendous success there. And so, I just happened to have some excellent people all the time with me.
Yeah, assistants are important. What was were you a motion offense guy or offensively? What was your philosophy for coaching?
Well, that's kind of a funny story, I guess, too.
Yeah, let's hear it.
First time I ever, like I said, I'm a big Bobby Knight guy.
Yep.
So I went to a couple of Bobby Knight clinics and of course, Bobby is the one that started the motion offense. He was the first one that ever kind of worked with it. And I remember, of course, the motion offense back then was you passed the basketball, and it was either pass and cut, pass and screen, or pass and replace yourself. That was pretty much the motion offense, and,
right.
and then how you set them up. But that's what you kind of did. Mm-hmm. So when I came back, and I can't remember, but I'm just kind of back in my head, I was thinking that maybe it was when I think it was maybe Jason Bakewell and Warren Auberg and that group, Rusty Eckness and that group that we started the first time we did with the motion offense.
Wow.
And
Rusty Eckness was a big guy, wasn't he?
Oh, yes, yeah.
He was a hell of a athlete.
Well, yeah. He
played football at UND. And
he's in the Hall of Fame at UND.
Is he really?
Yeah, or he was in the top century football team. Yeah,
I didn't know
UND.
that. Yeah, Rusty. Yeah, I see. He's still a tall guy, but yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Was he? He was a pretty talented player in high school?
Gosh, yes. Oh, yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. Okay, so you're doing the motion and
right. Except me when I come down, I can remember he said, "Okay, you pass and cut, you pass and screen, you pass." So I didn't really know if there was a name for the thing that we were doing, but I called it the passing game.
That's
okay,
awesome.
You're passing here, you're passing here. Well, those guys are going to hell with passing game. I came here to shoot. It didn't turn out real well. They didn't really grab onto my motion offense really well. So I had to adjust things from there. So
yeah. Defensively, you're a man-to-man guy, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, very man-to-man. You touched on it a little bit, but I was reading on Facebook to your post about head coach Bobby Knight. What was something that really struck you that made you be like, this is my guy?
Well, like I said in that article, like I said, back in when in the 70s, when I was coaching at Alamo, there happened to be some magazines there. And I can't remember what it was. It was either a Scholastic Coach or it was just called Coach. Mm-hmm. I can't remember. But I remember I was reading this article on Bobby Knight. Mm-hmm. It was from Bobby Knight. He was at Army. And I was on what I called the four-corner defense. I can't remember if that's what he called it or whatever. A lot of people call it the shell defense now.
Yep.
But that's where it all started. It was from Coach Knight. And I kept that article with me because I was so... It just hit me, and I thought, boy, this is so unique. This is something I've never, ever seen before, And when I went off and I went to mine at Ryan and stuff, I took that article and I started working with that four-corner defense and tried to develop it into where, I thought. And, of course, then when he went to, in 71, when he went to Indiana, I became the biggest Indiana fan out of Indiana, that wasn't in Indiana, and because I thought, all right, this guy is the guy I've been reading about, and so there I just started following it all the time and watching everything and trying to read and all his clinks and everything he did on defense. He just made the game so doggone simple. Yeah, he just broke things down so that you could understand it, and it made it so it was easier to teach, and that's where I. Really got my bases. It was all through him. You had a chance to meet him, right? Oh yeah, I met him like 3 times. I think it was. What was he like? Oh, just a down to earth. He was a very intelligent man. Yeah, well, not really. I mean, a very big historian. A guy. Every time you go to talk to him, one of the people he always talked about was Pete Newell. That was his hero. He watched as a coach, and that's who we always followed. And he'd always talk about history, but he'd always, of course, he was a big avid hunter. Yeah. And suddenly you find out, North Dakota, hey, how are the pheasants up there? Yeah. And you had a conversation right away. So so it's always made it nice. That's awesome. One of the biggest things is that when I wrote Coach Knight a letter. It was after one of the times I'd met him. and asked if it was ever possible to come to one of his practices, and got heard back from him right away. Of course, just let me know when you're coming. We'll have it all set up. So it was myself.
Holy shit.
So it was Jake Duvetter and myself, and I got lined up. We could go, so I took Jake, and then I took Rob Stefanowicz and Jason Keller along with.
Oh, wow.
So we could, and it was kind of neat. They brought us in, we had to have our, the letter and show the letter, and we got there, and the managers brought us in, and they set us up into the stands there, and
this was in season? Like during his collegiate season?
Right, yeah.
What was the practice like?
Well, so we got there, there's no night, there's no nothing. They, he's got 6-7 coaches, and they're going through drills, and we're all going through. And I still remember telling Jason and Rob, and all of a sudden you could just tell something was happening. The intensity of the drills, intensity of the place, the loudness of the kids and everything. You just knew something was happening. Mm-hmm. And I remember hitting Rob and I said, night's coming.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, he walks in, and I still remember he sat and he was watching a couple guys, and they were doing some drill, and I still remember that he'd go, some kid from California. I wish I could remember his name. I don't remember his name. But I remember he lit into him, and he told me, that's the last fucking time I ever goddamn recruited a kid from California. And Keller started to laugh, and I just hit him. I went, boy, don't you make a sound here. We'll be kicked out of here,
Yeah.
But, the intensity of everything, that to go. And a lot of people say, well, that's what they remember night of. But I don't remember Knight as that type of guy. I remember, and the rest of the practice, it was just nothing but precision, and because the things I remember about Knight are the things that, like I said, what he gave to the game, how easy, and with the motion offenses, and the motion offense now that we run everywhere is the same. It was brought up through him, was made through here. All your man-to-man defenses were created from what he did,
mm-hmm.
and everyone remembers the chair throwing, and they remember that, but they don't realize what he did for the university, with the building of the library, and all the things that a lot of the his players and stuff, that just idolize him. His graduation rate was 98%.
You just don't see that
no,
anymore.
You don't see
that'll
it.
never happen again. Yeah.
No, and I still remember Isaiah Thomas.
Yeah.
One of the greatest point guards that ever played.
Yeah.
Well, he left Indiana after they won the national championship as a sophomore.
Really?
Yeah. Coach Knight never talked to him for 4 years. Wouldn't talk to him because he left his program.
Wow.
Would not talk to him until he graduated.
Wow.
When Isaiah started coming back to school in the summertime, when he graduated, him and Knight got back together again. But that's the way Coach Knight was. That you come here, you're going to play hard, you're going to learn, but you're going to graduate. And that's a very profound thing for a coach.
Definitely. Yeah. No, for sure. I'm pretty guilty of that. Like I remember his antics being the chair throwing and the cussing. But yeah, like you said, you got to be a pretty smart guy to make it that far.
Well, yeah, like I said, his knowledge of the game, like I said, even, Coach Wooden, Coach Wooden always called him called him the best coach there is. He says, I don't like him, but I have to tell you that he's the best coach that there is, and that was the deal. Yeah, he did a lot of stupid things. Hell, I did a lot of stupid things. It does,
we all do.
Yeah, but that's just what he was. A lot of people always talk about, his quotes and stuff like that. One of the quotes they keep showing now after he passed away always, and which is one of the classiest ones too, is when, that senior night when he gave the poem about, when I'm passed and they bury me, I hope they bury me upside down so all my critics will kiss my ass, That's kind of, his favorite, everyone brings out that line. But my quote that I always remember that, when he talked and the times I got to visit with him, I remember him saying one time, he said that when he gave his definition of perfection, and his definition of perfection was you do the right thing at the right time and you do it the same way all the time. Wow. And that's what he believed in, and that's what he tried to accomplish, is to make that perfection. Well, he did in 76, and nobody else had done it since, but that was his goal, was that perfection of making sure that everything you did was to the utmost,
And that's who you kind of molded your coaching game after?
Right. Yeah. And like I said, I did stupid things too, and I got, but like I said, I really believed in that line about doing the right thing at the right time, trying to make kids to make sure that, okay, if you do these things, you do it right and they go through, you're going to have success, isn't it? You're going to hit those things. So
yeah, 100%. One thing that I always am really curious about is you got inducted into the North Dakota Hall of Fame, right? Sports Hall of Fame?
Yeah,
Coaching.
Coaches Hall of Fame.
What's that? Do they call you when you get in that, or what is that like when you first get in there?
Yeah, I got a phone call. Yeah,
wow.
That's what I did. Yeah, I got a phone call from the executive director of North Dakota High School Coaches Association. Yeah. And
just said, Barry, you're in, and
yeah,
really,
we did. You've been, well, I knew I was nominated.
Okay,
I'd heard that, they had told me that I'd been nominated, and okay, well, that's
yep.
But it's kind of funny is that I got the phone call the morning. It was the Divide County Fair.
Wow,
we were getting the parade ready. And we were on the float. I don't know if it was we had one of the teams in the float, or we had our basketball team on the float, or whatever the heck it was. But I remember we were on a float. We were getting the float ready, and I got the phone call.
No shit.
I go, hey, just elected to the Hall of Fame.
Wow.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's. And so, did you have to go down there and give a speech, or what's the ceremony like?
Yeah, the ceremony was. There was 3 of us that year that were inducted, and. They go through all your, they read all your accomplishments, and they do all things, and you get to go up and say a few things. And I was lucky enough, I had, and I remember Gene Manson told me this when I was, he was a coach at Miami High for many years, and he was inducted the year before me. And of course, a lot of the Hall of Fame, the ex-Hall of Famers, I try to get to the banquet also, and Gene was there. And one of the things I did for the banquet is I invited all my assistant coaches to it, because I wanted them to be part of this, and
right.
So I had Bud Molander and Jake and Robin and even Scott Molander. He came back from Indiana,
wow.
And I had so I had a nice little group of people together with me, and so I got to introduce those people,
Wow.
I remember Gene come to me after the ball game or after the ceremony and says, God, he said, I wish I had a thought of that. Having your assistant coach. I said, yeah. I said, that was, you're not here without him. So,
right. Yeah, 100%. Well, what do you think of today's game, the game of basketball?
Well, I'm a dinosaur, so
yeah. No, it's definitely changed.
It's changed. It's more spread, and it's more, get to the basket dribble. You don't see as many screens as, I like to see more screens.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see a lot more high posts. I think, but, the kids are so much more talented too. They're bigger, they're stronger, they're faster. There's no doubt, about that. But the game is fast. It's more physical, which is, I don't mind that part of the game. I just wish it was probably a little bit more under control. And I it's just the way the game, it's kind of funny. I think when you get to Division I, I think that is more under control than it is almost in our high school and our JCO leagues and some of them. I think that we're just so wide open and going. But you get to Division I, you see a lot more screens.
Yeah. You
see a lot more of the high post. You see a lot more of that type of ball game.
100%.
So because it's but that's. It's because of the size and the physicalness and what they're doing. You got 7-6 kids that are shooting 3-pointers. You know what I mean? So I mean that's. Like I said, I don't think Rusty was 6'5". I think he was 6'4". So I don't think I ever coached a kid 6'5".
Really?
Yeah.
6'4" was the tallest?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So
that's awesome. Our mutual friend Hank Bijou, who's the Dickinson State head coach, and we were talking about him before we hopped on. But the Dickinson State football stadium is now named the Hank Bijou Activity Center. The basketball court here at Divide County is Haggin Court. What is it like, Barry, for you to watch a ball game on a court that's named after you?
Well, it's something that every time you walk in there, you look at it. I mean, it's just something you can't help but.
Yeah.
Do. And then of course every time they do the starting lineups, they call it out that you're on Haggin Court, and it's something that how do I say it? It's one of the prouder things that's ever. I remember I broke down and cried when when they told me they were going to do that. That was my last. It was my last duty as athletic director at Divide County High School because I had resigned, and so it was the athletic banquet, and I said, I kind of said my goodbyes. This was going to be the last thing, and I walked off, and Coach Brown come up and he said, "No, we have one more thing," and they brought up, and then they had a drawing of the court that they brought out, and it showed Haggin Court, and it was, it was very emotional.
That's a crazy thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Does it still get you?
Yeah, it's getting to me.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, that's a special thing.
Yeah.
Talk about, a great coach, and that's Bob Brown. Bob Brown's been here a long time. Nate Nelson's been here a long time. What's it like to have those guys not coach football, but they kind of came up with you in the coaching world? Well,
that's Bob and I became very close when Bob came up. Bob was coaching football, but he'd come and talk to me just about every day. He wanted to know things and different things, and Bob struggled a little bit at the beginning. We just kept saying. I remember he lost his first football game of the year.
Really?
And Bob was, and the tradition was, that you go up to the Moose and you talk and go up and talk to the fans and go up, and I said, well, I went up and I said, Bob, come on, we got to, Lampert was going, Willie Lampert was telling him, Bob, we got to go up to the Moose. He says, I ain't going to the Moose. He says, they'll kill me. And Lampert looked at him and said, if you don't go to the Moose, they'll kill you.
They'll kill you. Yeah.
And so I remember things like that, but I remember then when Bob started getting that program together and started going, and it's still one of the best programs in the state of North Dakota
100%.
By far.
100%.
I'm so proud of him. He just, he just keeps going and going and going.
Bob has changed. Everybody. I didn't have the chance to be coached by you and stuff like that, but people that talk so highly of you. That's like the Bob Brown for my generation. You know what I mean? Like, right. Just everybody. Him and Jake Duvet are both great coaches, but Bob Brown and Nate Nelson were just tiers above.
Right.
I mean, we're so happy to have them stick around.
Well, that's the big thing, and that's what kind of happened with me too. The longevity is a big thing. Is all of a sudden you're coaching the kids of the kids that you've coached. And the tradition kind of just follows it along.
Yeah.
Like I said, and that's the one thing about coaching. And now, if you've been into the coaching now and you've got to do this, you find out is that, it's not about you.
Right.
Because I don't care. We talked at the banquet that, hey, there's no Hall of Fame, there's no Haggin Court, there's no state championships, there's no nothing without the kids.
Right.
And they're the ones that put all the thing in it, the time into it and work all the things. And I truly believe this, and I still truly believe this is, even today, I really believe kids want to be coached hard. I really believe that. And I just think that we've kind of fallen away from that a little bit, that they think that kids can't handle that, whatever. Well, they can. And I really think we should get back to that. I was talking, well, I'm still working with some kids, and I tell them, and I don't know if I ever told you this one here, but I always told them, you got to think about a little bit about, milk's not free.
Right.
And they always go, well, what do you mean? I said, well, milk's not free. I said, somebody has to get up at 4 in the a.m. in the morning, and they, in the back in the old days, tie the doggone tail and hog the legs. They had to sit down on a stool. He said, they had to milk the doggone cow. Mm-hmm. And you had to do it twice a day. Mm-hmm. I said, somebody worked their ass off to get the milk. I said, milk's not free.
Right.
You're not gonna get playing time just because you showed up. You're going to have to work your ass off just like the guy getting the milk if you want to be on this thing. And I think that's where kids have to get ourselves right back to that deal. Hey, you got to work to get achieved. You're just not going to get, everything's not going to be free for you.
Yeah, no, that's a great saying. Yeah, you haven't told me that one yet. I like that one. Milk's not free. Well, speaking of time flying, Coach, we've been going at this for about 45 minutes. One question I ask everyone that comes on swim lessons here is, leave us with something. Let us know what Coach Haggin would say to yourself when you were kind of up against it, going against the tough times. What's something that Coach Haggin would you would say to yourself?
Well, the big thing, every time I got into big ball games or something like that, is just relax and really feel the moment. You should know to yourself that you've done everything you can to prepare. I think as a coach, I really think you're failing on the kids if you don't prepare more than they do. Just like I said, milk's not free. Well, coaching the same thing. If you really feel, that kind of got to be when I quit coaching. I kind of felt that, hey, I wasn't putting in what I should be putting in, what I'm demanding the kids to do. I'm not doing that. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of got to the point, say, hey, I need to step away. Mm-hmm. And now I'm kind of getting back to where I really enjoy working with kids again. And I go again because I really think, okay, you want to be successful. Okay, make sure that you put in the same amount of time that you want somebody else, if not more, that you're working with. You got to do it more, if not much, of it as the kids that you're trying to work with. So
that's perfect. Well, hey, Coach, I appreciate everything you've done for Divide County basketball. I appreciate you being my friend, and more importantly, thanks for doing this today. You're the man.
Okay, awesome. I appreciate that, big guy.
That's a wrap. Barry Haggin, everybody. Thanks.